Hello everyone, it's good to see you back. The new Warlock aspect is crazy good, and I never thought Bungie would release another Arc turret on top of the ones we currently have. But here we are, with another Arc Warlock build that not only uses the brand new Ionic sentry, but will be combined with getaway artists for even more turrety adventures. We will also make use of the bolt charges effects, as they give out some massive damage when procced right. So everything about the build will lead into one massive thunder strike, as if we're using Thunderlord all the time. Oh wait, we are. So starting with exotic armor, getaway artist, with exotic effect, dynamic duo, it states, convert your arc grenade into an arc soul and become amplified. The arc soul functions as an autonomous turret. While I want to use the new aspect as much as possible, the build will have a secondary objective as well, which is to proc bolt charges when at max. Now to achieve that, we need fragments and aspects to push how fast we get bolt charges from kills, which from our current kit of spark or discharge, frequency, dielectric, and rolling storm weapon perk, this will be fairly easy to do. On top of that, our kit will be regenerating our abilities fairly fast because of how Ionic Trace's usage is being used. So if we have that further expanded on by adding on to the melee and grenade focus ability regen mods to the mix, we can expand getaway artist usage of being a fast firing and now heavy hitting mass turret on demand. Our second exotic is Thunderlord, with his exotic effect Reign of Havoc, which states, a final blaze with his weapon generates stunning lightning strikes from above. Lightning strikes grants a stack of bolt charge, strong against overload champions. With our abilities, and such swords through our exotic armor and fragments used, we now need a heavy hitting weapon to carry us through. The Thunderlord is the perfect match for that, especially since the exotic effect is like a mini bolt charge of its own. Now unless you're a Titan, you won't be able to stack current bolt charges into your Thunderlord for double bolt charge effect and use it onto bosses and such. But that is fine when you have a build that can proc bolt charges and turrets quite easily while under pressure. If this isn't your thing, then the Queenbreaker with particle reconstruction is a better option to pick with its absurdly high damage output. For aspects of fragments we have the following. Let's just have in mind we're defeating a target with arc abilities or jolted targets creates an Ionic trace. Collecting traces makes you amplified. Ionic sentry, where defeating targets with kinetic, arc weapons or arc abilities will charge up an arc turret that will periodically attack nearby targets. Spark of shock, where your arc grenade jolt targets. Spark of discharge, where your arc weapon final blows have a chance to create Ionic traces. Spark of ions, where defeating jolted targets creates Ionic trace. A spark of frequency, where melee hits increase your weapon stability and reload speed for a few seconds. While amplified, the effects are increased and you gain increased bolt charges from all sources. Now testing out the new aspect has shown quite a bit of results in the build. It's not your standard turret that getaway artist provides, but more of a bigger and bulkier kind that stays in one place at all times while dishing out damage from all angles. Now I have found that the following can make bolt charges of its own on kills and is fairly fast to create and use once it's being used up. So combining this with Spark of Frequency, Discharge and the Rolling Storm weapon perk is the best way to get the consistent usage of the ability but also buffing our other abilities as well. Now also to note is that this will grant us Ionic traces within the build via Spark of Ions, Discharge and Electric Stack Mines. All of these when combined allows us to create a miniature Crown of Tempest build with the added on effect of double the firepower we currently have, which is nifty when using the new dungeon's final encounter. Now I believe this setup will give you the best value out of the build when you want to just test the following out, but I can see this being expanded more if you wish to add on the Spark of Brilliance fragments to the build so you can jolt and also blind targets as well. For the mods and stats, we have Resilience and Discipline marked with the highest priorities for the build. Recovery will also play a part with the Slice weapon perk I'm currently using, but not by a lot. Resilience we have Art at a tier 10 for a 30% damage reduction. I have added the Arc Resistance mod because of how many enemies this season use solely Arc. You can also add Spark of Resistance to the build if you want that extra defense when using the following in dungeons, raids or GMs. But the trade-off is that if you use it in my build, you end up having reduced damage and ability regeneration, so think carefully. A Discipline with Arc at tier 10 for 1 minute 1 second cooldown via pulse grenades. So playing around with arc grenades are recommended here, as the charged bolts damage we incur over time will be triggered on the abilities we use. Now pulse in general is great, it does a huge amount of damage on near everything, it's consistent with its damage over time, it doesn't take too long to regen, and it's pretty much the best one to pick. Although, storm grenades can't equally be matched with them since they apply damage in a larger area, but would also see bolt charge lightning effects being ideal as a final blow as well. Also, I do remember we will be using our grenades for arc souls for the majority of the time, so you want to select a grenade that you know will be handy when you definitely need it most. So the expand abilities being used, we have the following: Momentum Transfer ×1 for a 12% melee ability buff, Impact Induction ×2 for a 17% grenade ability buff, and Outreach for a 12% melee ability buff as well. The additional mods, we have the following: Ashes to Assets where getting a grenade kill grants super energy, Heavy Ammo Finder, Reserves and Scavenger mods for heavy weapons, Harmonic Siphon for creating also power via matching elemental weapons, a Charged Up for a +1 armor charge, Arc Surge for a 10% arc weapon buff, Elemental Charge for picking up an elemental pickup will grant you armor charge, a Powerful Attraction for automatically collecting orbs of power when using your class ability, and then lastly, Time Dilation, which will reduce the decay rate of charged gear. So as we have covered our exotic heavy weapon, I would then advise you to pick some super weapons for the build. What I recommend are all optional, so always keep this in mind. Up primary is the Unworthy Scout Rifle with Rolling Storm and Rapid Hit. I got one from the new dungeon. The following is a perfect weapon to use if you're focusing on building up your bolt charges within your build. Having a Rolling Storm is ideal if you're using an Arc Warlock or Titan with their corresponding arc aspects. Now in our case, we will be using this to buff our Ionic sentry so it can apply more damage over time from lightning hits. But this will also leak into our other abilities we also use, such as Arc Souls, Grenades and Melee. Outside of the purpose of the weapon is pretty enjoyable to fire and quite smooth to operate with. You don't need to have this weapon as there are many other arc weapon options to pick, but it's got quite a lot going on for it and I do recommend you try and get one. As secondary, we have the Core with Slice and Vorpal weapon. Quick and a viable weapon to use against a majority of higher tier enemies, the Core with his roll is great to use if you intend to activate Slice as often as possible. As our build is using Photonic Flare seasonal mod, it only makes sense we double down on the effect and make full use of it on a large scale. Now of course, if you don't intend to use the perk, then the Vorpal weapon as a whole is a perfect addition for increasing general firepower. So with everything said, the new Ionic Sentry along with the Dungeons weapons are truly an incredible combo to be introduced this season. Not only are we incorporating them into our current build, which has been used many times before, but we're seeing new and incredible changes not seen before. Combining an Arc Soul with another bigger and stronger Arc Soul makes the build a formidable asset when you need to clear an area fairly fast. On top of that, having the Bolt Charge on hand is great for adding that extra level of high tier damage quickly when facing the more formidable enemies like champions, subjugators and bosses. In fact, the newly added Bolt Charge effects are really amazing when you can build it up quickly and spam them one after another. Ideally, getting a weapon with the Rolling Storm perk is the best way to go about this, as you can then make your Ionic Sentry proc out consistently higher damage. Then you don't really need to worry about it from there. And while the arc damage we have is effective at ad clearing and boss deleting, we do have these seasonal mods which will help enhance our setup more, such as having Dielectric, which gives us a Bolt Charge on debuffed defeated enemies, Photonic Flare, where defeating exhausted or severed targets, arc damage releases a burst of blinding on enemies, and even Flashover, where being amplified increases our lightning charge attack, which does more damage than normal. The build is incredible, and using this in GMs in a crowded area is the best form to exercise the full might of the build. You can even swap out our weapons that give Bolt Charge, and use a weapon that has the ability to jolt targets instead, and this will stay the same throughout the entirety of the build, except for a few changes here and there. So overall, if you love using Getaway Artists, but you want to use it more often with a bigger arc on hand, plus additional damage over time, then this setup is easiest path for that, which is honestly a fun experience to experience. So there we have it. I hope you all enjoyed the build breakdown. If you have any thoughts on content shared, then please leave a comment below, or if you enjoy the content and want more of these videos, then leave a like and a sub while you're here. A dim link for the build is located below in the pin section, and I always do advise you to check out my playlist for more. It was great sharing today's video with you all, and I hope to see you guys again soon.